That's right, West Tigers faithful. Episode 22. I'm not even going to bother with numbers. We have video. We have a new theme song thanks to our man AJ. And you can see us.
What's the name of AJ's musical act again? It's called State Fair. State Fair on Spotify. And you can actually listen to strangers on Spotify.
I believe it's coming out soon. We're actually going to
coming out soon. Sorry.
Ram McCord, how are you?
What's up, my friend? Up here in Brisbane, about to get destroyed by Cyclone Alfred. Funny story about Cyclone Alfred. They were originally going to call it Cyclone Anthony, but the Prime Minister thought it would be bad PR.
Well, to be fair, it is election season, so could you imagine how much fun News Corporation would have with that?
Oh, wouldn't they ever? One other thing, we're now using a new platform, so if there's any technical issues with it, we don't care.
That's right, but I'll tell you what we do care about. Round 1!
Oh, mate, let's go. You know what the worst thing about it being round 1 is, though? That Friday night is going to be like the peak of the cyclone, so we'll probably have no power, so I probably won't be able to watch the game.
Mate, I can't watch it either. I'm at a wedding, so I'll be KOing it casually underneath the table as there's father of the bride speeches and the rest. So, big love to my man Josh, but at the same time, that bastard, you don't put weddings on in footy season. Mate, moving on.
Bad news.
We're here. Round 1, 2025. So just to remind you of everything we have been through up to this point. At the end of 2023, the board got completely shafted. The CEO got shafted. The chair, thank fuck, he got shafted. Obviously, that went down pretty well. I didn't know you had a sounding board there.
We got a soundboard. I thought it would be a good time to introduce it to Reedy.
That was beautiful. We had a new CEO, a new chair, an interim board that's become a permanent board. The interim CEO became the permanent CEO. His name is Shane Richardson. We had some surgery done to the club inside and outside, but the most important surgery was enacted on the playing roster. Players such as Sania Taruva, Terrell May, Jack Bird, Royce Hunt, and Jarrell Skelton have either come from excellent systems that made the top 8, if not the top 4 last year, or know what success looks like. But the biggest one was signed in January 2024, ahead of the 2025 season. His name is Jerome Luai. The man needs no introduction. He plays his first game and captains the West Tigers on Friday night. And I couldn't be any more excited. Mac, you think of that and the squad turnover and everything like that and all we've heard about pre-season and about this club changing and, you know, right before our eyes. How are you feeling just a couple of sleeps out from round 1?
Well, to be honest, I feel like we're morals to win the 2025 premiership.
Well, we'll leave it at that. In our way is to the premiership is about 28 games for 24 on the regular season, starting on Friday night against the Newcastle Knights. I assume that everybody that is listening has heard the team list or has read it, so I will read it back out just for some talking points. Fullback Heath Mason, no Jareen Buller, still recovering from a shoulder surgery. Just quickly, if you want to know about the toughness and resolve of Jareen Buller, go and watch the documentary that the Tigers just put out about their pre-season. It nearly brought tears to my eyes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should quickly talk about that because I haven't seen it. What's it about? What happened to him?
So obviously the boys went for Sanford on their army camp, right? They got their day 1. There was a little bit of miscommunication on Lachlan Galvin's part, and originally it looked like they were a little bit, treading water a little bit, didn't really know what they were doing. They finally managed to put it together, got sorted into groups. After doing a lot of push-ups and burpees and stuff early, they then go on an 8K run carrying sort of jerry cans and all sorts of different things. And then it moves into sort of games where they're either physical or psychological or whatever it may be. So like the worm, and they sort of go 1-2 over the top, 1-2 over the top. There's a rope swing. There's a diving course where like the diver is blinded, and they've got to go through and they've got to pick certain things out of the sand, and like the boys are like on the riverbank, sort of tugging on the rope to give them directions. So that was quite interesting. And then as time wore on through the night, there was an equipment carry where they basically just had to take stuff up the hill and up until a certain time. It then comes to the point where they're sat there, and the instructor says, okay, we have one of two things that we can do. We can either do 90 burpees as a team, or one bloke can carry, it was like a pipe, right? Like I'm talking like a 1.5 meter long pipe, completely filled with water, heavy as anything, and one bloke has to take it up, running up the hill. And it was kind of quiet for a second, and Jareen Buller, who was like 4 rows back, just said, I'll do it. And everybody just goes berserk. It's absolutely nuts. And then they've sort of they cut to interviews of Talon and Jerome just saying like, goosebumps, couldn't believe it. Like one of the most courageous things we've ever seen. And you just see this kid, just like this skinny Indigenous fella, just running up this hill trying to carry it. It's phenomenal, and it speaks to the toughness of the kid. Like it was, it's amazing. So anybody who hasn't watched it, go and watch it. It's absolutely amazing, and it reaffirms all those qualities in Jareem that I see, that a lot of people see. He is one tough nut. And if it is true that he's the one that actually got appendix surgery and not Tito Taruba, I wouldn't be surprised, because my God, that thing was heavy.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing to hear. I'll definitely pop over and have a look at that. I vaguely recall there being a story last year about Jareem and Benji. Like, what was that one about? Like, there was some, like, one of them was like emotionally in tears or something. Like, it seems like Jareem's like got a bit of the, like, what do they call it? The main character syndrome, eh? Like, he's he's the man. Like, he's player one at the West Tigers, I think.
He's a bit of a special dude, mate. Considering that Uppy Coruscant has been through Michael Maguire army camps, has been through the ones at Penrith when he was there, for him to say that it was one of the most courageous things he has ever seen at one of those army camps, that's a big deal. That puts him in esteemed company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed it does. Anyway, Jareem won't be playing for the Tigers this week, but in his place is Heath Mason at You're having too much fun with this soundboard. I haven't got past jersey 1. I better get on with that. Stenea Taruva makes his club debut on what we assume is the right edge. Jarrell Skelton on the opposite side. We've seen him for a couple of weeks, but first competition game for us as well. Adam Dewey and Solomon Tape named in the centres. No Stafford Toa. He's also carrying an injury. The club says he'll be back next week. The halves, Lachlan Galvin and that man Jerome Luai that I spoke about a little bit earlier. The forward pack remains effectively the same from our trial against Parramatta. Terrell May, Talon De Silva, Fanua Bolle, Samuel Afanu left edge, Alex Seafarth right, and Alex Twal locking the scrum. On the bench, Tristan Hope making his NRL debut. Congratulations to Tristan. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. Royce Hunt, Jack Bird, both of those boys making their formal club debuts, and Sione Fainu. Mate, what was your first reaction when you saw this team list?
I was a little bit, I don't know, my first reaction was, it's not as strong as I thought it was going to be, to be honest. But then I realised, I was like, well, you know, I kind of expected it because Appy's out, and Appy in makes it a much stronger looking team. Solomon Afatape at centre and no Stafford Toa surprised me, but apparently that was just, I think Stafford's just picked up a niggle or something. So that kind of surprised me. I thought, I wasn't surprised to see Fatape though, because I thought he was going to be in there instead of Adam Dewey, to be honest. I heard through the grapevine Fatape was going to get picked. But I didn't realise it was for Stafford. The other mate, I thought I didn't realise Buller was going to be out. Yeah, I guess the Fatape and Mason being in it probably is what made it look a little bit weaker on paper than it might otherwise have looked like. I thought Hope was going to probably be picked at 9 ahead of Talon, to be honest. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen, but he wasn't in the end. But congratulations to the guy. Incredible story. 27 years old, making his NRL debut at the West Tigers. Second year in a row that we're going to give a 27-year-old debut, which is fantastic. And he's a Queensland lad, Brisbane lad. So shout outs to Tristan. Congratulations, mate, and hope all your family's safe in the cyclone.
Yeah, to see, it's really, really interesting. He played against Jerome Luai in the Holden Cup Grand Final at 5/8 in 2015. He has grafted and grafted and grafted away in Q Cup. He won a premiership in 2023, but wasn't really in a full-time system anywhere. Shane Richardson brings him down on a trainer trial, and sure enough, he works his backside off and ends up with an NRL debut, which is just
Hey,
amazing.
I should tell the story. Like I remember,
Go on.
yeah, we were going to try to get Tristan on the potty. And not no hating. I did a little bit of snooping to try to find some contact details of Tristan, and he seems a bit of a low key lad. He's pretty hard to pin down, unlike some of our other esteemed guests that we've had over the last couple of weeks. But I did manage to track down his agent's phone number, and I text messaged his agent. And it turned out his agent was like an old work colleague of mine, a friend of mine, from way back named Justin. And I asked Justin, and Justin was like, "Nah, dog, sorry, Tristan's keeping it pretty low key." So we weren't able to get him on the podcast. But how weird's that? Like literally, like dude I used to work with back in the day is Tristan Hope's agent. Small world.
Yeah, you still couldn't pull through.
Yeah, well, it took like in hindsight, it makes sense, right? Because at first I thought he might have been big timing me a little bit, but if Tristan was, aware of how close he was to getting a debut, he might have like been just trying to make sure, I'm just gonna keep a low profile and not rock the boat at all, and going on to a random bloody podcast like West Tigers Faithful just before you're gonna get your NRL debut at 27 is probably taking a bit of a risk. Let's be honest.
That's very true. One thing I wanted to bring to your attention was the fact that Adam Dewey is in jersey 3 and Solomon Tape is in jersey 4. Now, when Marshall's named his trial teams, jersey 3 is typically the right edge, Tape the left. We sort of thought that Dewey was going to be a direct replacement for Naden, but now I wonder whether or not he's going to be in the side next week. Do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, I agree. That's what I thought Fartape was going to take Dewey's spot. Fartape is a left centre. So Fartape will play left centre this week. And Toa was good. Toa was right centre. So, I mean, look, that doesn't necessarily mean that Dewey's not just going to switch back to the left, but I think what it does definitely mean is you are correct. Fartape is going to play on the left and Dewey on the right this week. Whether they think Dewey's ahead of Fartape in the pecking order at left centre probably comes down to Fartape. If Solomona has a good game this week, he's probably going to keep the spot because I don't think Adams got a stranglehold on the jersey by any stretch of the imagination. Adams got utility value, and Solomona, touch wood, like he'd looked pretty good in the trials. He's a damaging ball runner, and who knows what kind of player he is when he's getting fed by Jerome Luai.
Yes, which brings me to my next point. The two guys that we haven't actually seen through preseason were our two highest profile buys until Terrell May came through the door, and that's Sania Taruva and Jerome Luai. What these two bring, obviously, is know-how, in terms of how to win games, which is something that we've lacked for a very long time. But my God, they just do not stop barking. They just talk and talk and talk, and will bring so much energy. How do you anticipate that the energy and the winning culture and the know-how and the expertise that these two bring will have an effect not only this week but across season 2025?
Yeah, it'll be incredible. Like it'll be one of the biggest things biggest differences, I think, because last year it was visible at times that when times were tough, the boys were kind of on an island out there on the field. They were sort of all stuck in their own heads. There wasn't anybody really, that kind of so over the top. Obviously, there was players out there that were talking, but they weren't like over the top, like rallying kind of personality types that Jerome obviously is, and Sunia is too. And I think that I touched on this a few episodes ago. Like that's what they teach at Penrith. Like like everyone's like that at Penrith. Like the whole club are like that. So there's never any shortage of somebody, to play that role. Like if one person puts their head down, there's half a dozen of guys who will pick them up and play the role of leader. And at the Tigers, now we've at least got one. And it just goes to show,
We have
Penrith.
two.
Two, sorry, at least one. Now we've probably got more than two because Terrell May seems a bit like the type two, to be honest. But it goes to show. Last year we had one, maybe zero, and we came last. Penrith had 17 and they came first. So maybe that's the trick. Maybe that's the hack to the NRL is make 17 guys your spiritual vocal leaders on the field, and then you don't have anybody with their chin down at all.
Maybe you're right. Let's talk specifics about round one. So I've broken this down into where we can win and where we can lose. So first and foremost, and this is an argument for both sides, it's round one. Combos aren't complete, fitness levels aren't at their peak, and some players haven't had a run in the trials, okay? Like case in point, Tito and Jerome. A lot of the time, games in round one, and it was evidenced by, for a lot of the time, the Canberra Raiders on the weekend, it comes down to who completes the highest, who scrambles the most, who hits their effort area metrics, so your kick chase, your kick pressure, your support play, and who kicks to corners and win. Like they win these games. I do think that we have the team here that requires that approach regardless, simply because of the lack of quality in the outside backs. So I really hope that's the strategy that we employ. Are you the same?
I'm kind of thinking that we're ambushing Newcastle, frankly, dude. I know I'm an optimistic guy, but like I feel like that we kind of kept Jerome off the field a little bit on purpose. I know there was like the niggle, but like I think that was a little bit of gamesmanship, to be honest. I didn't see the whole video, like the whole doco, but I saw the trailer of the doco, and like to me, like I'm looking at a side that does not look like the West Tigers. You know what I mean? Like there's some seriously different energy, like crazy different. And if Newcastle are going to play us expecting the West Tigers of 2024, they're going to get ambushed pretty badly. I kind of think that the game plan here is going to be like smash from the get-go. I think we're going to see like a pretty upbeat West Tigers on either side of the ball. Lots of ball movement early, where in the trials it was very conservative, play to the structure, play to the system style. I feel like we're going to try to blow them off the park, to be honest. That's because I feel like that's what they should do. I feel like that they should go out there and be like, we've got Dream, we've got Lachlan Galvin, we've got Talon, we've got speed. Let's go for it. And if it doesn't come off, at least you've gone for it, right? So I just feel like that's what you do in round one, and then maybe round one's always a little bit of a weird outlier game anyway. So it's not a reflection of how of their core structure and how they're going to play for the rest of the rounds. But that's what I'd do in round one. I'd literally just be like, go out there, boys, eyes up footy. Don't think too much. And, forwards do your job and let the backs play football. That would be my game plan. And to, I know that sounds simple and it's not X's and O's, and I know how much you like X's and O's, but in this situation, I wouldn't even really be talking to the Tigers about X's and O's. To be in defense, get up and put hurt on. Don't give them space and time. That'd be pretty much the only like tactical advice I'd be giving them.
That's interesting. I'm the opposite. I'd be playing extremely simple, extremely conservative. Look, give the forwards a license to offload after if there's an opportunity, absolutely. I think second phase is extremely important, especially in round one. But for the most part, I think that we just need to turn these guys around. I do agree with you in terms of the contact. I think it's get up quick, hit hard, stick hard, win that collision, put the player on his back and ensure that we go again and again and again. And I think that you'll probably see that, as you said. I think we'll be quite enthusiastic. I just think that a guy like Jerome Luai is actually on the field to temper that enthusiasm in attack. to really ensure that we're getting to our points on the field, that the forwards are winning their battle, and that therefore we can play footy off the back of that. We talked about how important our middle corridor is for our attack. It's going to be interesting this week with Talon and Tristan Hope and not Uppy, but I'm really, really curious to see how we go with that and whether or not there's going to be any sort of rust or cobwebs that need to be blown out. Now, one thing that we can agree on is that I think that this game will be won in the middle. So it's May, Bolle, and 12 versus Jacob Saifidi, Thompson, and Tyson Frizzell. So those, I think that's actually quite evenly matched. And I could be biased because I'm a West Tigers fan, but I think that our boys can match theirs. If we limit quick play the balls, win the collision, and find our fronts, we'll go a long way towards winning it. Because I do think that while I would like the Tigers to play conservative, there's points to be scored on our edges. For all of Adam Dewey's flaws, he can find the line. We have Jerome Luai and Lachlan Galvin playing in the halves. You have Samuela Fainu and you have Ali Seafarth, who is an underrated hole runner. We have some Solomon Afar-Tape, can provide a couple of headaches for his opposite. So I don't think points is going to be really the issue. It's actually limiting Newcastle's points, and that comes back to, again, being super disciplined, kicking to corners, getting on kick chase, kick pressure, supporting the man inside and outside you, communicating well in defence and tying in.
Just right of rebuttal. The problem with that conservative strategy, like, I understand it's like to, play the high percentage, high completion, limit mistakes, stuff like that. Like, Newcastle are a unique team in that they're probably actually more likely to score points on you from, like, outside the 40 than they are from inside the 40, right? So, like, there's actually diminishing returns when it comes to playing conservative. Because, like, the way that Ponga and Best and that like to play is they'll shift from inside there into the field and they'll beat you from there and they'll score long range tries. Like, that's what they will do. So trying to, like, pin them down in their own end and stuff like that's not going to stop them from playing football. So if we do that, okay, sure, they're not going to have so much field position up in our end to score tries. I don't think that's going to cause them issues. I think what's going to cause them issues is getting behind on the scoreboard. What's going to cause them issues is trying to play from behind with a team that's actually, like, coming at them in waves. And a little bit like how we hit the Cowboys in that game at Leichhardt, that's sort of what I actually think's the game plan here. Primarily, I think you're right. Jerome Luai is not going to be part of that so much. Like, Jerome Luai is going to be on the field to kind of make sure that the ball's in the right spot so that the guys who are going to play that way are going to be playing that way off of set play, like in the right positions at the right times. But I still think, knowing what we know about how Benji likes to treat young guys, the fact that we've got Talon, Galvin, and Mason as the rest of the spine, he's not going to try to, like, make them play an unnatural brand of football to them. And they're all very off the cuff. So that's why I expect it to look like that, to be honest.
I think the biggest thing that you hear is that we are quite structured until there is a need to play out of that structure. So if you get the right split or if there's an overlap down a short side or whatever it may be. Now, I would encourage, despite me being quite the conservative attacking tactician, I would sincerely hope that when they see that, they will do that. And I think based off what we saw off Lachlan Galvin in the trials and what we have seen of Jerome Luai of the past 6-7 years, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Again, scoring points is not the problem. It is simply just ensuring that we do the basics right, our effort areas are up, and we limit their field position. To me, those are extremely important because we're going to get to it. Where we can lose this game is when Newcastle get in the mood and are able to flourish in good ball territory. Now, back to the middles, I think that our bench is better than theirs. Royce Hunt, Jack Bird, Sione Fainu. They've really only got Hetherington and Croker as recognised middles. They've got Brodie Jones, who does a little bit of time on the middle and on the edge. But the key for us is ensuring that we don't lose this game in the first 20 minutes. And that's on guys like Terrell May and Alex Twa. Another thing in terms of winning is I keep talking about turning them around, kicking them to death. We have a left foot kicker and a right foot kicker. That opens up the field for us completely and gives us the opportunity to turn the Knights around, put the ball where we want it, and back our line speed and our aggression to keep them down there. On the other side of the coin, Newcastle only have Jack Cogger. Fletcher Sharp can't kick a ball. I haven't seen Ponga kick a ball in a very long time. And the guy who realistically is a good dummy half kicker, Jaden Brayley, is on the bench. It gives us an opportunity to win the field position battle from that point of view, and that's something that excites me. Furthermore, we talked about scoring points. There's points to be scored simply because of the attacking prowess of our boys, but there's chinks in their armour. Sharp's going to have a lot of trouble early on trying to transition. Jack Cogger's a small body. He's going to have to try and tackle Samuel Afinu. Good luck. Greg Marshu's a spud in defence. You just bait him. I think Sania Taruva will probably zip around him. Dane Gagai's not getting any younger. And Tyson Frizzell's had a few issues with defence as well. Although I will say he always plays good against us. Anything else?
No, not really, man. I think that you actually raised a really interesting point that I hadn't thought about, though, which is the lack of sort of traditional half, like lack of good kicker. I mean, Cogger's sort of a traditional half. That to me actually kind of makes me think even more so that they're probably not going to try to play a conservative field position game. So I do think you'll see Newcastle pretty much try to score plenty of tries from inside their own half. Like they'll be doing lots and lots of shifts. So yeah, in that respect, I think playing an attacking brand of defense is going to be really critical for us. Forcing bad passes and making them knocking them off rhythm quickly. Trying to get them into that sort of headspace where passes are going over the sideline instead of, a little bit like what we did. Honestly, a little bit like what we did to Para last week.
Yeah, and the early shift is something that they did against the Roosters. So I really hope we've done our homework. Where we can lose this game, it's really one place, and I am genuinely terrified of it. It is our right edge defending versus their left edge attacking. Okay, so just a reminder. Fletcher Sharp, left-sided half. Dylan Lucas, left-sided back rower. Bradman Best is on that edge, as is Greg Marshu, who is a very big body. Not to mention the man who on his day is the best fullback in the world, sweeping around the back, Kalen Ponga. Those who will be defending them, Alex Seyfarth, Lachlan Galvin. It will be Adam Dewey and Sania Taruva in one of the gross mismatches of the year up against Greg Marshu. So, my player in focus this week is Alex Seyfarth. And the reason that Alex Seyfarth is my player in focus is because he is going to be extremely important if we're going to get anything out of this game and we're going to limit points on that edge. Why? Because he's got to get out on his bike in time to shut down Fletcher Sharp, okay? And allow those boys to slide off. So for Galvin to then head over to Lucas, Dewey to Best, etc., he's going to be extremely important. Now, there were times against Parramatta where, they effectively had a reserve-grade backline on the field, and Alex missed his assignment. Lachlan got caught up, didn't shift, and Isaiah Iongi, utilised his class to set up their left winger in the corner. That's going to be a real point of interest for me, and something that I will be honest, I am quite worried about, simply because of sharp speed and his explosiveness and his ability to get around a man at the best of times.
Yeah, I'm actually currently staring off into space because I'm imagining what it might look like with Dewey itself against that backline. And I was kind of thinking, honestly kind of envisioning Dewey kind of doing a decent job of it, because Dewey's defensive issues aren't so much defensive decision making and rushing up. It's when he's sliding and he's lateral movements really poor and he's hesitant to slide. If we just actually assign Dewey the role to play that center role and actually create the shell, come up and actually hit the man that he needs to hit, I feel like he'll do it pretty well. You remember last year when Dewey first came back from injury and he was playing center, he actually did a really good job in defense in that game, didn't he? And even to the point where he took an intercept try and went the length of the field. So I don't know, I have a feeling Dewey might be a little bit of a strength in this game. Just kind of feel like his particular approach to defense might actually suit how Newcastle are going to attack that edge. I know it feels kind of baseless, doesn't it? But I just have a feeling. It's just I can just envision it in my mind. But you're right. It's not just Seafarth, but it's even the man inside Seafarth that needs to be mindful of this. Like when we were looking at that para game, Seafarth was actually, trying to move pretty fast quite a lot.
Yep.
And then the man inside him was also trying to move pretty fast a lot. So in that respect, I think that they've drilled that. Like I think that they know their assignments in that way. They know that the middle actually have to get across instead of sort of leaving the outside posted and losing that overlap. So again, there was okay signs. Obviously, you're right to point out that Para actually had some good results with a kind of worse looking side. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think it's pretty fair to say that they'll probably if they score more than 2 tries down that corridor, it probably does mean we'll lose the game. But if we can limit them to 2, probably win the game. Do you think that's fair to say?
I don't know. It's really hard to say. I think they'll score more than 2 tries down that edge, to be brutally honest with you.
No. What are you thinking in terms of a score here?
I can see like a 32-20.
I think that you think that they're going to win, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I was going to get to a prediction a little bit later on, but
it organically got there conversationally.
I just think with a few players missing, like our first choice centres are no longer there. That's going to disrupt offensive combos. I think Heath Mason, as much as I love his dynamism with ball in hand, still has some work to do from a fullback point of view in terms of marshalling defences, obviously diffusing kicks. And he showed a lot of improvement in terms of defensive cleanup work, but having like Greg Marju, I'm really interested to see. So yeah, that's and I'm a little bit worried about teething problems. I think Jerome will do some great things and he'll have some beautiful touches, but I also think there's going to be some times where the play breaks down.
I think that our cohesion, like you could see in the completion rate last week, it was high. Like I feel like they've got pretty good combos already. Like there wasn't much clunkiness to the attack aside from the poor distribution from dummy half. Like everything off the back of the poor distribution from dummy half was a problem. But like outside of that, there wasn't like, that West Tigers like look and play where it was a clunky thing where like some dude got hit in the back of the head type stuff. That didn't happen too much. I think it happened once. Dewey got hit in the chin by a Galvin pass one time. But aside from that, it looked pretty good, and that was without Luai. I'm glad you brought up Mason. I feel like that this is the sort of game that is going to give me a fairly... I will lock in my opinion of where Mason's at as a player a bit more after this game, because I almost feel like the stage is set a little bit for him. Like the you know what I mean? Like I don't think there's any sugarcoating or any kind of like confusion about what he has to do in this game. And so because of that, it'll be like if it doesn't look good, it's probably because he's not there yet. But if he makes it a winner, then it's going to be a good sign for him. Like, and what I mean by that is like, there's going to be times where Mason's going to need to get across because they've got an overlap in time, and there's going to be times where they're going to dribble it in the in goal and Mason's going to have to be there. So, that defensive cleanup work that you talk about and, being able to arrive on time and put somebody over the sideline and stuff like that, that's the stuff that we want to see from him in this game, I think. More important than, attacking flair or anything like that. It's not the game. It's not the sort of game where I expect his, the thing that everybody consistently mentions about him as a weakness, the bomb taking. I don't think that's going to be put to the test all that much in this game. But his defensive stewardship is probably going to be.
Yeah, I think that probably brings me to my conclusion currently about Heath Mason. I think he's a wonderful footballer. I just have questions about him as a fullback. So, as you say, I hope that a lot of the very, very traditional non-negotiables of fullback play, he answers a lot of those questions. You asked me about a prediction. I know you're pretty optimistic, but what do you got in terms of a scoreline?
I mean, nobody ever does pick the score the way I do. I always just trust my intuition. Like I don't tend to actually like think about things very logically. I just feel like we're gonna flog them. Like I honestly just feel like we're going to flog them. I don't know why. Like I've just got a feeling that we're going to flog them. Like I think 30-6 was my prediction.
I would love to see it. Love to see it. What I will say is this, despite my negativity, I do think that we will win one of two of these first two games. So if we lose this week, Parramatta, likely without Mitchell Moses, and we'll have Uppy, Starford, and Jarembula back on deck.
So, we're going to flog that. That's going to be I'm confident about that one. No, I think I made the point last week or the week before, Jared. Like when the Tigers play against teams who have like one distinctive advantage over us, like we kind of see, like even when we were a weaker side, they never you know what I mean. They never seem to really exploit us at the point where it seems logical for them to exploit us. We always seem to, oh wow, who could have predicted Morgan Harper scoring 4 tries today? Like that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like so, it's the fact that we've got a better side and it's very clear what we need to shut down. It's so obvious that I feel like it'll be pretty hard for Newcastle to actually take advantage of it because it'll be too obvious. Like if it'd be almost like walking out in front of a truck and just standing there and letting it hit you. That's like if Newcastle do manage to paste us straight at our biggest weakness, like that's indictable offense. And the vibes I'm getting out of the side are high as. Like they all seem to be unified, cohesive. They've got leadership finally. They're listening to the coach. They've got some nice bolters in the side to bring even more energy, like Hope, Mason, the boys. We got Mason, Galvin, Talon, Spine, bro. Like that's that's cool as. That's the Magpies Harold Matt Spine.
Cool.
With bloody Jerome Luai, the like prodigal son of West Tigers. It's crazy cool. So the vibes is high. Remember last time that Spine ran out at Campbelltown? I think we won, didn't we? The last time Mason, Galvin, and Talon played was that the Spine and Spoon Bowl, or was it because I remember them playing.
No. Uppy and Latu played.
Yeah, the last time Mason, Galvin, and Talon played in the Spine was the week that we pasted Canberra at Campbelltown. I'm pretty sure you can fact check me on that one, but I'm pretty sure it was.
We'll go back and have a look. Anywho, look, it's exciting from a youthful exuberance point of view. What I will say is that, look, that sometimes things just go wrong in round one for whatever reason.
It's gonna go wrong for Newcastle. Stop saying negative shit.
All I'm saying is there can still be good glimpses, and I expect to see plenty of good glimpses, win or lose. This is I genuinely believe that this club's turned over a new leaf. I just don't think this is the week where we get 2 points. But
where do you think Newcastle's going to finish on the ladder, Jared?
Okay, all right. In that middle 8, so anywhere between.
Okay, so you don't think they're a top 4 side?
Oh no, absolutely not. I think they.
Where do you think we're going to finish on the ladder?
We'll get to that. We're going to run through some bite-sized season previews. So please stay on the line, listeners. But I think we're going to be in the same stratosphere. Put it that way. That was a terrible time to put that, but you know what? It's actually a good time to pivot. So we've actually got a listener requested section here, and it's about the man who is probably under the most pressure at the club, if not the NRL, to deliver, Benji Marshall. So these questions were given to us from Snow Tiger. Thank you for listening, Snow. Along with Giles, who's a storied listener and always offers his opinions on the West Tigers forum in the West Tigers Faithful thread. I am going to hit you with the first 3. You can take them, and then I'll give my responses. First question, are there signs that Benji Marshall has evolved as a coach, and how close is he to his ceiling?
If he's close to his ceiling, he's fucked, mate. What is
my
it?
first thought.
What is it? His third year as a coach, second year as a head coach, third year if you're a cynic. I think yes, there are clear signs that he's evolved as a coach if you're paying close attention. I think that the way the video that I thought was like, ooh, like I got some good vibes from was that how he brought Tristan Hope into the room to tell him. That's a he's confident, you know what I mean? There's no imposter syndrome there. And like that's the big thing I think with coaching. Like if you're confident in yourself as a coach, because you're confident in yourself as a person, then you're a good coach. The problem with like not just NRL but like professional sports coaching in general is that you often don't get the time to really like, you know, find yourself as a coach. If you're unlucky enough to not have a playing group that are going to play for you, or like unlucky enough to not have the talent, it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. Sometimes you come in and you just don't time it well and out you go. Like I think a good example of that, I talk about NFL a lot, is ex-New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh. Like he's a fantastic coach, and anybody who's ever played under him knows how good he is. And he just goes into a terrible franchise that, you know, just can't win for shit, and only gets, you know, 2-3 years or whatever it was and out the door, and, you know, now he's not a head coach anymore. Like I feel like a bit of that from Benji, to be honest. Like I think that people underestimate him because of how poor the performances were last year and the year before. But like, what did he have? You know what I mean? Like what did he have? Like the most dysfunctional front office in the history of the game, aside from maybe, you know, Parramatta when they, you know, had the coup. But no talent. A playing group last year that like was divided, low-key divided, for not his fault. Like I don't think it's his fault that John Bateman got the sooks. You know what I mean? Like, so what did he have? Now he's got no excuses, as Richo keeps saying. No excuses, because he does have talent. Does he have a premiership winning playing group? I don't know. Because sometimes, like I've said before, like the rising tide raises all ships thing. You know, like sometimes you bring in a Jerome Luai, Taruva, a Terrell May, a Skelton, a Jack Bird even, and suddenly Alex Seafarth goes to another level, and Twal goes to another level. And I think there were signs of that in the trials. I truly do. So I'm very optimistic about this year, and I give a lot of credit to Benji, because I think the way that Benji brought through some of these young guys, nobody's going to give him any credit when it's all said and done, and at the end of Lachlan's career. At the end of Lachlan Galvin's career, no one's going to give Benji Marshall credit for it. But like, how many dudes have had a rookie season as good as Lachlan Galvin? Who was his head coach? You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to give Benji Marshall any credit for that. No one has. I haven't heard anybody compliment Benji Marshall for Lachlan Galvin having the best rookie season of any NRL player of all time. Isn't that nuts? That's the sort of like bullshit that the West Tigers have to put up with from the media. So to answer the question, I think there are obvious signs. There always have been signs, and his ceiling, mate, nowhere near it.
Agreed. I'll go really quickly. I think he is evolving as a coach right before our eyes, as you said. He's very direct and clear in his communication. I think that's something that he's always been, and obviously he was a half and a bloody good one at that. So and obviously had the ego and bravado. So I think he's carried that into his coaching. I think that straight away you can see the hard edge and the way that we've changed up things through pre-season. We've gone to an army camp as opposed to going to Queenstown. That tells you all you need to know about Benji Marshall's evolution. Mac, what metrics are being used to analyse our coaching performance? Do you think that it's more than just the win and loss column?
Last year, yes. This year, it's... I just mentioned that I think it's sometimes unreasonable to measure a coach by wins and losses. I think if the side stays healthy and there's stability around the club, I feel like it's probably fair to analyze it by wins and losses, because when you think about let's say, let's play the tape forward and say we're halfway through the season and, we've had pretty much a full strength side and we're 4-10 or something like this. Imagine we're there again. At that point, it's going to come down to, well, we must have got the tactics wrong, right? So at that point, you look at it and you can probably still make an argument that maybe Benji's, a good leader of men and maybe he's a good coach, but they've just got the tactics wrong and they've missed a trick. Maybe maybe they're getting penalized out the ears, or maybe, they haven't solved the sin bin issue or something like this. Haven't realized the game's adapted around them, something like this. Like that kind of stuff could happen. And that's still an indictment on him as a coach, right? But without having without really being able to see sit inside the dressing room, sit inside of the video sessions and be sitting there and watching them train, it's impossible to say. We can only really see from the outside, and the vibes and we haven't seen the team yet. So yeah, look, I think if we have a lot of injuries and stuff like that, no, it's not fair to measure it by wins and losses. Will we? Probably. Like that, and that's what I mean when I say that there's it's an unfortunate world that head coaches have to live in sometimes. That sometimes even if it isn't their fault, they still get measured negatively by it. And I think, unfortunately, Shane Richardson's kind of backed himself into a little bit of a corner a little bit here, where he's gonna have no choice but to actually be true to his word if we're not winning games, regardless of what happens.
Look, he's sacked many coaches before. He's obviously, unfortunately had to deliver the bad news to a lot of club legends and coaches that have delivered premierships in the past. So I know that Shane Richardson knows. In terms of metrics for us, I think I think a lot of it is eye test based. Have a look at the tactics that we use from week to week. Have a look at our structure, our system, but also importantly whether or not they're playing for him. And you'll see that in their effort areas and their scramble. They're extremely important. Look, wins and losses is what most coaches are judged on the surface. But as to your point, Mac, in terms of injuries, suspensions, if there's very, very individualistic errors that are happening in games, and I don't think those are they necessarily fall always on the coach. Sometimes these are things that you can't control. So
as long as it's logical, man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as who's measuring the head coach's performance at the West Tigers? From what I gather, it's pretty much just Shane Richardson. I think maybe Shane Richardson in consultation with the head of the general manager of football, Matt Betsy or whatever. But you know what I mean? So it's gonna just come down to whether he's got, he's not somebody who the media can really push around. He doesn't care that much about optics. He cares a little bit about optics, but not that much about optics. But at the same time, I think the types of optics that he cares about are his own reputation. So if he's starting to feel like Benji's, putting Richo's reputation as a football genius at risk, that's when you might start seeing Richo show Benji the door.
Yeah, I think so too. So keep an eye on that. Thoughts on the assistant coaches, and if you think they are a step up on what we had going last year. Now, just as a reminder, so Chris Hyington takes care of effort areas. So you're gonna see that week to week. Again, we talk about it all the time. Kick chase, kick pressure, support play, scramble in defence. So let's see how that goes. Guys in the defensive line going back to clean up kicks. Jumping on loose balls. So wait and see with that. John Morris is the defensive coach. There's been some slight changes, I think, to our defensive structure, not heaps. I think our line speed's a little bit better. I think our contact and wrestle is stronger. I believe that we are a little bit more up and in through midfield, but we're still sliding and using the sideline as an extra man when defending our line. So, look, I liked what Bomber produced. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the team's attitude and intent, which I think is about 70% of defence in the modern game, fell off a cliff when they started tapping people on the shoulders. I think he's also under pressure as well. So let's wait and see how his system holds up this year. And finally, it's Brett Hodgson in attack. We don't have heaps to play with, but we're playing very, very flat. We're hitting the lead runners on block shapes. Alex Seifert said as much in an interview in the preseason. We're seeing the play that Penrith utilised again that we spoke about last week with the halfback or the right-sided half double pumping to the left-sided half to get a flat 4 or for him to bounce off the other side. So keep an eye on that. But a lot of it is really flowing through the middle, which I think is to do with Marshall's DNA. Do you have anything to note there, Mr. McDougall?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same group except sub Farah for Hodgson, right? That's literally the only difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's an upgrade, man. Like, with all due respect, I love Robbie Farah. Like, he's my favorite player, but like he had no experience. And I personally could just look at his energy and, like, you know, wearing a suit in the suites up and stuff, in the bloody, what do they call it? The suite
coach's box.
Coach's box, sorry. He just didn't have. He wasn't a coach, mate. And that's why he's not one now. Brett Hodgson is, and I know people have been critical of the hire. I'm not. I think Brett Hodgson is at a point where, you know, he's been an assistant coach for a very long time. Was he a head coach in England or an assistant over there?
He's the head coach at Hull FC. Remember he took Josh Reynolds off our hands?
Yeah, so he's been an assistant coach here in Australia for quite a while, and then he goes over and he's finally got some head coaching experience over there, and now we've got him as an assistant. That's a very experienced coach, and not only is he a very experienced coach, he's probably, you know, he's in our top 3 greatest ever club captains, maybe the greatest. Actually, he is. Let's be honest, right? Like, you know, he wasn't the captain in 05, but Scott Prince was only here for 2 years. Like, Brett Hodgson is a club legend, and he is a freak fullback who played above his weight, who wasn't very, you know, he wasn't the most talented, like, natural player, but just got everything out of his talent, played Origin. He knows what it takes. Massive upgrade on Robbie Farah. So if the question is, you know, what do I think about the assistant coaches, and are we in a better situation than we are last year? Of course we are. How could we not be? You know, we've subbed an inexperienced attacking coach that didn't really care about his job for somebody who has deep connection to the club, but that's coming off of being a head coach in England. And we've got John Morris with another year under his belt. We've kept most of the coaching together, which is good because it means that they had a, you know, we didn't just, you know, overhaul things for no particular reason. So they'll have a chance to reflect on things and actually grow as a group. And I think that the signs coming out of the players is that they're vibing the coaches. I think, you know, my personal view, an effort areas coach, I like the idea. It's novel. Like, I get it. Like, it's cool. Like, I like that the Tigers try different things. When you try different things and you, like, kind of look a little bit odd and you suck, it just looks like you're an idiot. But if you do that stuff and then you win, you look like a genius. So there's, like, you know, a fine line between looking like the world's biggest idiot and a genius when it comes to, you know, making weird hires like this. But I wouldn't, no offense to Hino, an effort areas coach has to be like somebody who inspires you. Like, and I know Hino is like he's a hard man, and he, like, was a hard player, and he fought hard, and he had a real good approach to football when it came to effort areas. But he's also, like, he just vibes as a bit of like a larrikin, you know. I feel like he'd be the sort of bloke that, like, it'd be tough to take him seriously, like, off the field, to be honest. So that's probably harsh, but so I don't know about Hino as an effort areas coach. Look, at the end of the day, that's a pretty baseless judgment on my part. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's obviously a great bloke, but that's the only downside I could see. Is, like, if you want an effort areas coach, like, I think somebody like, oh mate, who would be a good appointment for that role? That's an ex-Tiger. Like, just trying to think, like, who'd be a good appointment for, maybe like a Bengalia or something like that, right? Like, somebody like that who's, like, a bit more serious of a person, but also the same type of player as Heinington. I think that, like, would make more sense. But obviously Hino's a club legend. He's one of the boys. I understand why they're surrounding the club with coaches that are all ex-Tigers, because it's like, to be honest, and I may not have ever explained this well before, but like, I personally feel like that when you go so long losing, and they talk about this idea of like losing gets in the walls, right? And the culture of losing, and the club has forgotten how to win and stuff like that. A lot of that is like self-belief. A lot of that is like the playing group looking at the jersey and looking around and being like, I'm a West Tiger. We don't win, right? So you got to put the players in, you got to put the guys that have won in that jersey in and around the club. You have no choice. You have to do it. So maybe it's like a bit of like a trade-off. Maybe we might have more talented coaches on paper if we weren't actually doing this as a strategic thing. But that's what I think they're doing. I think they've made a pretty clear choice to intentionally only hire from ex-players at the Tigers that have won before. And next year or the year after, if we start winning again, that'll probably change again.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Just some really quick fire ones. Well, the last one's big, but I'll just answer these ones. Conditioning of the team, and if you think it looks different to previous seasons, yes, of course it does.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
They look so much better. They actually look fit for a change. Thank God.
They look handsome.
Yeah, they do. They look trim and cut and ready to go.
Even Alex Seapath looks like the sort of bloke that you wouldn't mind dating your sister. How you going, Alex?
Yeah, he seems a good fella, Alex. Evolution of the team culture, I think the culture is evolving positively. Again, we spoke about Luai and Taruva and the effect they're going to have on the group. I think that's a massive thing. I think a guy like Terrell May is going to try and put the team on his back and say, come with me. I think that Api Coruscant is going to benefit from, having those guys in the building, as opposed to pretty much being the only singular leader. And Marshall's idea, again, he's the only Polynesian coach in the league. As a result, he's going to do things differently, and he puts family first. Craig Bellamy puts family first. You just don't really hear about it.
So does Wayne Bennett.
That's right. That's a
hallmark characteristic of the greatest coaches of all time. Like, I'm going to soapbox again, Reedy. This is the sort of shit the Tigers have to put up with. Like, he gets no credit for anything good and gets shat on for good things. Like, it is not a bad thing that he's family first coach. It is 2025 where he is coaching Gen Z kids. I'm a millennial. Like, even I wouldn't be able to respond to rah-rah coaching. That shit went out with a straw hat in the 80s, man. Like, family first values, look after yourself, look after your family, look after your kids, look after your community first. If you don't do that, you're just not going to get anything out of your team. So this rhetoric that, like, he doesn't take his coaching job seriously because of this, that, or the other is bull fucking shit. Straight up. It's just smart. He could have gone to the World Coaches Summit in Las Vegas and had every ESL coach and every freaking EPL coach and NFL coach and fucking NASA coach come up to him and say, this is what you got to do, and come back and do it. And people would say he's stupid. That's what he's putting up with. That's what we put up with the Tigers. And the only thing we can do to stop it is win football games.
That's right. And winning football games often comes down to being having a good coach at the top. I get this asked by Giles all the time, can Benji coach? What is the evidence on either side of the argument? There is too small a sample size. There was a lot of injuries last year. It was a poor quality squad to begin with. The squad went through major surgery. There was guys getting tapped on the shoulder left, right and centre. No doubt that affected their commitment. I think that within the first 8 weeks, given it's a pretty good start, with a roster of reasonable quality, that providing without any injuries, we will get evidence that Marshall can coach. At the moment, I think it's inconclusive. I don't have any evidence either side. I think he got Spoon Bowl completely wrong. Okay? I think the Cronulla Sharks game at Cronulla was absolutely hopeless. But then I look at the games against Parramatta on Easter Monday where they hung in there for God knows how long. I look at the Cronulla game, a team that made the preliminary final, and we trounced them at Leichhardt. I look at what our young blokes did against the Canberra Raiders at Campbelltown. I look at what we did to a Manly Sea Eagles side after being 14-0 down. And the heart that we showed in the class that we showed to come back in that match. It's really, really hard to get a read. And I've compared it before. You look at the Canterbury Bulldogs of 2023 to 2024 The coach gets a little bit more time to imprint his style. He gets the players he wants. There's a little bit of teething problems at the beginning of the second year, but they eventually catch fire. That's what I'm hoping happens for Benji Marshall. So to answer the question, I don't know if Benji can coach yet, but we're sure as hell going to know in a couple of months.
I think that I look at things very differently to the way you do, man. And no disrespect, everybody's different.
Totally
Like,
fine.
to say it's inconclusive is fair if you're just trying to answer the question, is there evidence that he can coach, right? Like, is there evidence he can coach has to be broken down, because what makes a good coach is several things. It's not one thing. What makes a good coach is an understanding of the football game, the modern meta of the football game, the X's and O's, the tactics, what's going to actually win a game on the field. That's one aspect of what makes a good coach. And in that respect, yes, there is inconclusive evidence to suggest that he knows how to coach. There is conclusive evidence that he knows how to coach men. There is conclusive evidence that he knows how to manage these young players. There's conclusive evidence that he's getting the most out of young talent. Lachlan Galvin is conclusive evidence of that. Heath Mason is beginning to become conclusive evidence of that. Dream Buller is conclusive evidence of that. Like, there is conclusive evidence that he can do that part of the role. There is inconclusive evidence that he knows how to do the X's and O's part of the role. The question we must ask when it comes down to whether or not we want to persevere with him as a coach is, which of those two talents is more important in coaching development? What's harder to teach? Somebody who can actually break the game down and actually explain how it functions on a field and tell people how to actually win a football game tactically, or a charismatic spiritual leader who understands how to manage people and get the most out of them? In my opinion, the latter is about 80% of what makes a great head coach. The other 20% is the football understanding. What's more important than him understanding football is him understanding how to get the most out of other people who understand football. Right? It's him understanding what makes good assistant coaches. It's him enabling good assistant coaches to do their jobs well. That's even more important than the actual X's and O's tactics on a field. Do we know that he can do that yet? Even more inconclusive, right? We really don't know if he knows how to coach coaches. We really don't know if he knows how to identify good tactical talent and nurture that tactical talent. That's the hardest of the three talents for head coaches to get their heads around. That's the tough one, because you're dealing with egos. You're dealing with guys that are trying to climb the ladder, trying to build their own careers. You're dealing with White Ant and Todd Payton. You're dealing with, like, you know, things, especially as a young guy who's just come out of being a footy player, you're often dealing with guys that are more experienced coaches than you. That's the challenge for Benji Marshall, in my opinion. That part is the bigger challenge, the biggest challenge of all for him. And that's why I think you've seen Shane Richardson take such a hands-on role when it comes to actually managing the coaching, and, you know, focus on developing a coaching development system at the Tigers to support that part for Benji, because that's the part that Richardson's probably correctly assessed as his potential flaw, his potential fatal flaw that might cost him in the long run.
Yeah, I think that Richo would certainly have a read on where he thinks Benji's at. But all reports are that they're backing him. And as Shane Richardson says, there will be no excuses. Let's wait and see what happens both on Friday and in the weeks to come. All right, I teased some bite-sized season previews. We're still going to wait on those. I'm going to get into junior reps and just give a quick roundup. West Harold Mats, it's now 3 weeks without a win. They are absolutely stinging for one now in a short season, and there are a lot of good teams sort of clogging up the top part of the ladder. They play the 3-1 Warriors this week. Right, like, they're on 6 competition points, and I believe that they're about 6th place. So they've got some work to do. The positives, Yakub Ali Jida showed his class again for the first try. I really, really like this kid. Cannot wait to see him blossom in the next couple of years. And Curtis Lakeman had some nice touches, but he also had some touches, you know, I'm sure he wished that he had over again. It's breaking down in the middle defensively, and that's leaving us short on the edges, and that was evident a couple of times where we paid the price. Harold Matthews, it was an ugly day at the office where they were outplayed. You bin it and you move on. Nice little kick from their halfback for the final try, and they've got a bye this week to take stock. Balmain SG Ball got trounced by Souths Look, it's just one of those losses where it all went wrong. It's not a reflection of their 4-0 start. You flush it and you look to next week. A lot of these middles will want to make good this week. The Heat also played a role, but ultimately we just got steamrolled and they had a lot of class that led to a lot of points. Mark Tennis and Xavier Tuai-Fainga both played pretty solidly, which is a good sign. But they play the Dogs this week, who are slowly getting their tails up. And this is very much a crucial juncture in their season. It's actually 4th versus 5th. Balmain's ahead of them. So fingers crossed for them. Anything there, Mac, across those three grades?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with the Balmain SG ball side. Like, that was just, whoa. Like, you did not see that coming the way that they were playing. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe they all had the flu. Who knows?
Let's blame it on that. Let's blame it
all
on
the power to the West SG ball side, though. 2 in a row, 2 big wins. They look like they've come good, mate. They might be coming from the clouds, and rightly so too. That is a talented side. They should be winning games. So.
Mate, they are humming. They are humming, and they must have an issue with St. George because they beat the St. George Dragons and then they beat the Illawarra Steelers back-to-back weeks and beat them well. Look,
both those sides were in pretty good form too, weren't they? Well, the Illawarra Steelers definitely were.
Oh, absolutely. Look, man, I look at this side and there's a lot of year youngs here or guys that played in Laurie Daly Cup last year. And I think it just took them a couple of weeks to adjust to the speed and physicality of SG ball. But now they're just making sides look like fools. It was an end-to-end game of footy really early. We did extremely well in the first 20 to withstand their advances. And I don't actually think that Illawarra played that badly. I just think we were so good. And it starts with Phoenix Godney. Far out. The kid possesses every trick in the book. He's devastating in contact. He ball plays like the best halves in his age group. There was a line break assist for Riley Oidman, which was incredible. And then there was a try assist at the end for Josh Patrick's second. He can offload. He can offload early, he can offload late, he can hit spin, and he can hit you in defence. It's actually insane. Once this kid gets his growth spurt, I don't think it's going to be too long before he's playing first grade. Riley Oitman, oh my God. A couple of weeks out of the side, was named at centre, ended up playing fullback, and it's a good thing he did because he looked like Ryan Pappenhausen's clone. He returned the ball well, he ball played really nicely, particularly for our second try on the left edge, and he supported through the middle. He scored a couple of tries, which he deserved. I think we've found our fullback, and that's really, really exciting. Riley's been a guy that we've always been quite high on, and to see him have that game was unreal, and I hope he goes on with it. Archie Duncombe, I don't know if you saw it, short pass to set up Christian Torpau-Moores for the first try. That was shit hot. That was really nice. He's put away the short pass recently, but it's actually one of the best assets of his game, so I'm really, really happy to see it. Byron Laupepper took the footy on a double lead shape. So there was, I think, Edwards Mweke, the halfback, had the ball. There's 2 players here hitting the defensive line. Laupepper being the outside player. He took the footy. He then played out the back himself, which speaks to his skill level. That's not easy to do. And he also threw a really nice pass for Mussy again to score. So again, it was Laupepper assist, Mussy try. Great to see Sonny Edwards Mweke take the line on. So Mitch Tyler's who we had on the show a few weeks back, his prediction looks like it's beginning to come true. And these boys play the 0-5 Warriors next week, and that is absolutely a danger game. Do not get this twisted. This is a side with a couple of youngs from a premiership winning side last year. They've been close on a couple of occasions. You'll be really, really weary of this game. Other grades, Tasha Gale and Lisa Fiaola both had wins over the Dragons. In particular, the Fiaola side won 54 blot. And both the Laurie Daly and Andrew Johns Cup sides also had a win, and this is their last week before finals. Before we talk about the rest of the league, Mac, anything?
I thought Riley Oitman had been the best player, or one of the best players in the SG ball side when they were struggling when he was playing fullback in the first couple of rounds. So I was a little bit surprised that they moved him when they did. So to hear that he got moved back to fullback and had a blinder, it doesn't surprise me, but it also is good to hear because I think he is pretty good player. I think he does have NRL potential. Isn't it exciting to have like 2 Ryan Pappenhausen clones in SG ball at both clubs?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. And hopefully Brooksy, we see him in in Flegg, because I do hear that he's been ruled out for the season, unfortunately.
We don't call it Brooksy.
Oh, Logie. Anywho.
That's Brooksy is all. There's a guy who has a mortgage on that nickname.
Very true. Look, best of luck to our junior rep sides this week as they continue their campaigns. All right, finally, bite-sized season previews. We pretty much did it last week for the 4 sides, and our predictions for the games pretty much came true. We had the Raiders winning pretty easily. We thought Ricky Stewart would get his team on something round 1.
I had 2, I had 0 on 2. I was wrong on both.
Well, there you go. I was 2-0, and Nathan Cleary. Nathan Cleary masterclass. No one was surprised with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name the team. I'm going to ask you a question. You tell me yes, no, and you tell me where you reckon they'll finish. I'll do the same. Okay? We're going to go alphabetical order because the Tigers are last. Brisbane. Will Madge's methods disrupt the rockstar culture?
No.
Wow.
A lot of people saying it. Like every man and his dog. I went to the butcher's shop the other day and I was like, who's going to win the comp? And he's like, oh, mate, I think Brisbane. I was like, well, we're in Brisbane. You're probably a Brisbane fan. He's like, no, I'm a Canberra fan. I'm like, okay, whatever. But, yeah, so everyone's saying it, even the butcher. But, no, not first year. Not first year. Maybe eventually.
I'm going the opposite. I think that he gets results in his first 12 to 18 months. At South, it lasted a little bit longer because they had an elite squad. But at the Tigers, midway through 2020, they fell to shit. I think he will get results instantly. I think you can see it in the way that they played in the trials. For me, they're top 4.
Mm-hmm.
You?
I mean, like... maybe top 8, like maybe top 4, 4th, maybe, but like I don't think that they're going to win the comp. Like I've struggled to see them winning the comp, mate. Like I don't see Michael Maguire running around the grand final, getting Gatorade bars from Reece Walsh at the end of this season. Do you really think that's possible? It's not happening, mate. Are you kidding me?
Have you seen their roster? Have you?
I don't care. It's not happening. We don't live in that universe. No. It's not happening. The truth is, I don't rate Madge as a coach. Like everybody freaking thinks that he's the best coach ever because of what happened in New South Wales. He is a dated coach from a dated era of coaching, and he is coaching a club full of players that do not respond to that type of coaching. Like, are you kidding me? What is it? What Kool-Aid is everybody drinking? Okay. So he got them tuned up for the season proper, and they're going to hit the ground running. What's going to happen as soon as they get the first sniff of adversity and Michael Maguire goes in there at half-time and calls Reece Walsh a femboy? What's going to happen?
Look, I think that Madge thrives with elite squads. It happened at Wigan, it happened at South, it happened with the Kiwis, it happened with New South Wales.
Probably because he won't have to yell at them, yeah.
He's not a rebuild coach. But let's think about this. Reece Walsh, Selwyn Cobbo, Katoni Staggs, Dean Mariner, Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds, Ezra Moran when he comes back, Payne Haas, the best front rower on planet Earth. Who else is there? Brendan Piakura, Patrick Carrigan. Like, holy shit. Like, this team, phenomenal. And that's the thing.
What's different about the roster from last year?
They're elite players. They're elite players. Madge deals well with elite players.
What is the difference between that roster and the roster last year?
There's no difference with the exception of Ben Hunt, but there's a change in coach, and I think it'll be enough.
And what was the change? Like, so, hang on. Let's just humor me. Kevin Walters was the grand final coach the year before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they've replaced a guy who was a grand final coach a year before. They've changed nothing about the roster, and they just think that the team's just going to go back to being as good as it was the year before. It wasn't a coaching problem, it was a player problem. Like, the coach got the most out of that team the year before. The players decided that the players lost the plot. The cohesiveness of the squad lost the plot. The inspiration in the squad vanished. Madge just doesn't bring inspiration like from how is he going to fix that problem? What's his tactics going to be? Come in there and do nothing and hope they fix it themselves?
No.
Like,
Look, I don't think Madge is a rebuild coach. I think he was the wrong coach for West Tigers. I would like to see Madge fail. I'll be on the record and I'll say that. But I don't think he will. Unfortunately.
I don't think he's a rebuild coach either, Jared. I'm not saying he's a rebuild coach. I'm saying he is a washed up coach. I'm saying that he got the most out of the Rabbitohs because the Rabbitohs had a bunch of dudes from the north of England who grew up in freaking steel mills that like still respond to toxic masculinity and shit. Like, and then he came into the New South Wales squad that was full of like superstars that were like mature. Like, Brisbane's a talented side, but a different type of talented side. It's oil and water. It's an oil and water marriage. It feels all wrong to me.
All right, put a prediction on it. Where are they finishing then?
8th.
All right, I got them preliminary finals. Bulldogs. Will teams be able to snuff out what made them so good last year? So what I mean is small forwards, high line speed, a lot of scramble, a lot of high effort, but towards the end of the year, it looked like teams, particularly Manly, had worked out where to beat them. Where do you think the Dogs end up?
Yeah, I don't think that they'll actually make the finals this year. I think that they're going to have a bit of a rebound sort of off of like their high. I think that they'll finish like let's say 10th.
Okay, I've got them remaining exactly where they are. I think they'll have some good wins. They'll solidify their place in the table. I've got them about 6th. Cowboys, can youth make up for the experience that has walked out the door? So Caulfield, Val Holmes, and finally Chad Townsend. Now, I know he was sacked as halfback, but he leaves, and he would have been a good guy in the locker room. This week, they start Tom Duffy, who is a wonderfully talented player, one of my favourite junior players in the entire country. But there is a lot of inexperience in that roster. What are your thoughts?
I thought they played really well in the trials. I liked what I saw. I mean, like, you know, result whatever, but like, I thought that the players that they brought into this, well, honestly, I thought Bateman played good. I thought,
yeah.
If John Bateman played good, like, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be. I'm gonna say 7th. I actually have a feeling that they're gonna surprise. I think I consider them a little bit of a surprise packet.
I think that I think 7th is good for them. I think middle 8, anywhere between hypothetically 5th and about 13th. And I know that's broad, but I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be jostling for position amongst all that. Dolphins, is there a Wayne Bennett-sized hangover in Redcliffe?
Oh yeah. Can I hedge and like call them last with 4 other sides?
You called them last 2 weeks ago, so yes.
Last then. But there's been trials since then.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I've got them bottom 5. Where in the bottom 5, I'm not sure. But I think look, with the exception of this week, with the moving of the game because of the cyclone, apparently a couple of players are going to pull out. You just flush this week and you move on. But I believe that they will start pretty quick. I think they'll beat us round 3, and then it'll go to shit. Happy with that?
Yeah, I'll just go last. I'm not going to hedge. I'll say 17th.
Fair enough. All right, Dragons. Is there a net gain or net loss with their gains and losses? So it's effectively Clint Gutherson, Damien Cook, and Valentine Holmes in the door. Zach Lomax and Ben Hunt out of it. What are your thoughts there?
15th.
No, I'm going the opposite. I was wrong about Shane Flanagan, and God, I wish that we went after him when he was a free agent. I'm really, really interested in this side. I think they're going to be fucking hard to beat. I don't think they're top 8, but I think they're going to be really, really hard to beat. I can see them hypothetically beating Melbourne in a dogfight. I can see it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think they'll have a couple of scalps. But I think that their inability to score points will hurt them given their halves and their fullback. And I think that will simply be the difference for them. I see them pretty much finishing where they did this year. I've got them about 10th. Parramatta, can Jason Rolls imprint his style quickly and make a positive impact immediately?
Nope. 16th.
Interesting. I think it purely hinges on Mitchell Moses' fitness. They are a big swing side as a result. I wouldn't be opposed to them running 15th or 16th if Mitch Moses is out and all these questions around Dylan Brown continue. But if they can get those blokes fit and firing, I dead set reckon they could drag them to the top 8. For me, that middle 8. Newcastle, is this halves pairing going to push them higher than 8th? Fletcher Sharp, Jack Cogger / Tyson Gamble / Jackson Hastings.
Nah, they're gonna have 17 different spine combinations by the end of this season. Like they're a good side. They'll probably win a few. I'd say they'll probably finish like for 9th, 11th, something like that. I think that the spine they picked this week against us is pretty crap, man. I'll just to say it how it is. Like obviously Ponga. Well, we're gonna see Ponga at 6 at some time this year. It's an inevitability.
Sharp there, I think, is to prolong Ponga's time at the back. I don't think he can defend in the line because of his issues with concussion. Look, I think that this 1 to 6 on its day could tear anybody to shreds. Ponga, James Schiller, who I've loved for years. Dane Gagai on his day is exceptional. Bradman Best goes without saying. Greg Marju is a tank. He's a great attacking player. Fletcher Sharp, electric. Jack Cogger is just a guy that's your 1 to 6. Then you got Jack Cogger who can just steer the ship. Look, every single year everybody goes worst side in the comp. Worst spine in the comp. Everybody writes them off. Everybody anticipates that Adam O'Brien can't coach. Spoiler alert, he can. So very, very interested to see where they go. But I think they pretty much land where they did last year, anywhere between 8th and 11th.
Well, I said 9th or 11th, so we kind of agreed with each other. Why did it sound like you were disagreeing with me?
just around the spine stuff. But yeah, you're actually right. We did come to a similar outcome. We just took different journeys. Souths, if there's a hangover at Redcliffe, is there enough Wayne Bennett liquor in Redfern to fix their issues?
Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling they're gonna be all right. I think the injury to Latrell and who was the other one?
Cam Murray.
Yeah, and I think Campbell Graham's injured too, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Oh, actually, no, he's back this week.
Oh, good. So I have a feeling at some point when Latrell's back, that they will go on a big run. So I think they might actually end up in the 8, to be honest. I think that I have a feeling that they're going to be that team that kind of like comes sort of a bit from the clouds and like ends up getting there quite well. I kind of think they'll probably be around about 6th, 5th, something like that. And I know that's a very unique prediction, but I like to be different.
Yeah, look, on paper, there's merit there, and they have the best coach of all time. So I get where you're coming from. I just think that with Latrell being out, missing till about round 7, and they've got a tough start.
7 rounds, yes, for sure.
They've got a tough start, and Cam Murray out for the season. I just don't think there's enough quality to get this season started. I think this season is probably going to go similar to last year. I'm not saying 3rd last or 2nd last like they finished, but I just think, look, Wayne, hasn't coached a top 8 side in a couple of years. I'm not saying that the magic's gone at all. I rate him the GOAT, but I just think that Cody Walker in the twilight. I think that the Lewis Dodd experiment has already failed. The Cam Murray issue is very, that's massive for them. And they don't really have the size and brutality required in the outside backs to get them out of their own hand. As a result, I think that's going to hurt them. I've got them anywhere between 11th and 14th.
Do you remember a couple of years ago when Tom Travojevic missed the start of the season for Manly, and then when he came back, they just went nuts and were almost unbeatable?
Are you predicting a similar upturn with Latrell Mitchell?
Mm-hmm. I think Latrell is a player who everybody knows how good he is, and everybody knows that his, what he does on his day is pretty up there with best player in the world. Like when he's at his absolute best, Wayne Bennett is the perfect coach for the guy. And if Wayne Bennett can get him to his best, and it's all mental for Latrell, we all know that. If Wayne Bennett can get Latrell mentally right, and they get, he comes back and he stays fit for the whole season, he could drag him to the top 8 on his own. And that's what I'm backing. I'm backing Wayne Bennett to be the one who gets that out of him. I don't think that's really that outlandish of a prediction.
No, I don't think so either. I just think that Latrell might need a year. I think he just might. Last year was his off-field, misdemeanor year. This year's almost like a transition. The year after, I think he'll kill it. But at the same time, if this happens and he drags them all the way into the finals, I'm not surprised. Anyway, I'm sticking with my prediction. East, can Robbo actually coach?
Yeah.
No, he can't.
Yeah.
He's a fucking myth.
He can. He would have. We like look at the players that have come and gone at that club, dude. Like he wouldn't have lasted that long at that club if he couldn't coach. No way. Like he would have been found out. Nick Politis doesn't suffer fools. Like it's an in joke to say Robbo can't coach, and everybody likes to make that joke, but like it just does not hold water as an argument.
All right, well I'll put it to you: the side that they had on paper last year was better than Penrith's. They managed, and I know that the injury to Sam Walker hurt them, but the reality is that he hasn't beat Melbourne or the Roosters in 5 years. Like at some point, you have to turn around and go, all right, well clearly he can't get over the top. And obviously he won premierships 2013, 2018, 2019, but you simply just have to look at the playing roster. I think that I look at the development of some players, case in point, a guy like, honestly, Kyle Flanagan, and he couldn't get out of him what he needed. I think there's a bit of a question around Robbo and his ability to develop youngsters. And I'll be very, very interested to see how it goes. You saw it play in front of your eyes last year with Siwa Wong. Now, on to the Roosters.
Bit of a stretch, man. Bit of a stretch.
Like, I just hate the Roosters, so I
get where you're coming from, but I just want to like say, the argument that they haven't been able to beat Melbourne and Penrith is fair enough, right? But like the question is, can he coach, not can he beat Melbourne and Penrith? Like Melbourne and Penrith are like, different animals. Penrith especially a different animal. I think there's a fair argument to say that Trent's kind of magic dust has worn off the Roosters. Like, there's plenty of coaches out there who can't really, not everybody is Wayne Bennett at the Broncos or Craig Bellamy at the Storm. Like, they can't just keep year in, year out, like, adjusting and stuff like this. Like, I get that, like, but I still think, like, Trent Robinson is, on his worst day, like, a top 8 coach. And I think that, it might be time to consider maybe, like, bringing a new flavour to the Roosters, but I don't think that's a complete indictment over Trent Robinson. It just means he's probably been there too long.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Overstudy's welcome, I get that. The Roosters squad this year is not a top 8 squad. I think they have an amazing forward pack, but I worry about their 6 and 7. I worry about their outside backs. I think they're going to leak points. I actually don't worry. I hope it happens. I hope they run things. I do
look at the list.
Look, I think that this is a down year for them. How far down, I'm not too sure. But I hate them, so I've got them bottom 5.
I like the prediction. I hate them too. I think, what do we got? Tedesco, Tupu, the guy whose name I wouldn't dare try to pronounce.
Nwanga.
What the hell are you talking about? James Tedesco, Daniel Tupu, and Dominic Young in are 3 players in their back 5. Okay, so their centers are kind of fresh, right? That's what you're getting at, right?
Well, I think that Dom Young is error prone. I think that in a bad side he can get even worse. I think that Daniel Tupou has stayed at the Roosters a year too long. And yes, Tedesco is a diamond and had probably his best individual season since they won a comp last year. But he can't do it all on his own. And you know what? These outside backs are worth nothing if they don't get the quality ball that they desire from their halves. And who are their halves? Sandon Smith and Chad Townsend. And I
They
like
have it.
Sandon. I like Sandon, but he's still learning his craft.
Yeah, they don't have a great spine. You're kind of right. I think I'll probably. I think that they have a weak bench too, so they look like they've got real big problems in their depth. So they don't if they haven't been able to roll out a decent 17 in round one, and their depth looks pretty bad too. Yeah, you're probably right, man. Honestly, I guess 14th or something like that.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Everybody knows it's a transition year. And God, I hope it happens. I hate watching them every week. Manly, is DCE in the twilight?
That dude's got he must have the same supplier as Smith, eh? Like he doesn't seem like he's slowing down all that much to me. I didn't see any signs last year of it aside from maybe like that he got injured, like so he was off the field a bit. But
Look, he had a phenomenal year. It was just that before Christmas, he had spoken to club management and said that he was unsure about playing on in 2026. He only took until I think January to reaffirm his commitment to Queensland. Like, I'm not necessarily predicting Jonathan Thurston 2018. I don't think he's going to overstay his welcome by any stretch. But I think that if that's playing in the back of his mind, I worry whether or not that's going to have an effect on the playing group. Looking at Manly as a whole, obviously, you if you've got Tom Trbojevic in your side, you're a chance of winning any day of the week. But I think their forward pack is nowhere near good enough to compete with the top sides. And yeah, absolutely not. Have you seen the side that they've named this week? We've got COC
yeah,
by
I'm
Paul
looking at it right
Carho
now.
starting at 8. We've got Jazz Tavanga in the 9. Who else is there, mate?
They're having Tavanga in the 9 is surely just to take the like pain out of the ruck for 20 minutes before Jake comes on, right? Like there's no way he's going to play big minutes at 9. I think I rate them. I rate them. I think that their back 7 is competitive with any team.
Agreed.
And it's in terms of speed, easily the best team.
Agreed.
Like Saab, Cole, Garrick, Hopewadi, Brooks is probably the fastest half in the NRL. And then Turbo at the back, mate. Oof. Yeah, look,
yeah, you go.
they might struggle in the pack, but I kind of think that their depth in the forwards is actually really impressive.
It
like
is.
so the fact that they've chosen Takayaho as the prop in round 1 probably just means he had a blinder in the off season, to be honest.
Yeah,
And
I watched a lot of their documentaries, and he was front and center.
So from that perspective, like it doesn't surprise me sometimes when guys like that come back from a stint in the ESL and they get a bit of a second win late in their careers. It's happened before. Paseka's he's a slow developing talent, but he gets better every year. He's still improving. Olaquata is an Origin level back rower. I don't think, and then Ben Trbojevic is young and improving. I honestly think it's a top 14, man.
No, look, I've got them in the 8, but I don't think they can compete with the best sides because I don't think their forward pack's good enough. That's just my opinion. Look, they might prove me wrong, but that's my issue with Manly.
It's all about Turbo, man. That's all. Like,
Yeah, that's right.
If he plays every game, they'll be a top 4 side.
Similar to Parramatta and South this year. If he stays on the field, then they'll win plenty of games. Melbourne, is Stefano enough to get them home?
He played pretty good in the trials, sadly. I think the answer is yes. I think they're an easy top 4 side. I think he's definitely going to be a better player. I think he's probably going to be a really good player, to be honest. I'd be surprised if he walks into the Origin side now that he's actually down there and playing in a team that's going to win heaps of games. Blore continues to improve too. Katoa's obviously an incredibly good player. Liera has had a massive 2024. He was a spud before last year, and now he's
I agree.
Yeah, now he's an absolute gun. Any side that's got like Kamakamitha on the bench. That's pretty good. Alec McDonald on the bench. Valepu's like a Uto Ekamanu 2.0. And you look at their depth, you got Falongo can't even get in the side. Grant Anderson can't get in the side. Joe Chan's a good player. He's on the extended bench. This is a strong side with probably, to top it all off, not even mentioning the best spine in the NRL. So the Tigers are my premiership favourites, but these guys are my premiership favourites. If you catch my drift.
Look, I think that the biggest thing to talk about is the fact that Penrith have lost Jerome Luai and James Fisher-Harris. Yeah. Melbourne haven't lost anybody, and they've gained probably the best young front rower in the game.
I don't even know if I could see a single weakness in their side. Like, Jack Howarth and Nick Meaney are actually elite centre pairing. Like, if you think about the role that they play, like, they're not the best centres in the NRL, but defensively, both very stout. They both chime in and can finish players when they need to. They both decent hitters. They're both pretty quick. That's the clear weakness in the side. That's no weakness. That's the perfect center pairing when I'm building the perfect roster. Like, if I'm playing Moneyball, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have I don't like signing, superstar talent to play center. I like finding guys who can really fill the role that you need in center so that you can actually put the superstars in the positions where they influence the game the most. And that's what that's what Craig Bellamy understands about team building better than any other coach. And he's done it this year. It's an excellent, it's a terrifying first 17. They're going to be incredibly difficult to beat all year.
Completely agree. And one thing that does scare me, I think we only played them once this year, and we will in the grand final. But Cam Munster's been really quiet these last couple of years. Couple of issues with his groin. He would be absolutely chomping at the bit to have a good year. And with the way that Jerome Hughes played last year, Ryan Pappenhausen with a successful comeback from injury, they're a very, very scary prospect. Just like you.
Just before we move on from Melbourne, I just sort of want to... is Pezzett fit?
I believe he's coming back from an ACL.
Is he? But is he named in Queensland Cup this week? Do we know?
I have no idea.
Because once Pezzett's back fit, it's pretty crazy. Because they've got Ryan Pappenhausen at fullback. He goes down. Farlong goes up. They've got Munster and Hughes in the halves. They go down. Wishart and Pezzett are up. That's just... They've got... And even Bronson Garlick is a pretty dang good player. That's crazy, the depth they've got, bro. They've got the best top 30 in the game, the best top 17 in the game. If they don't win the comp this year, it's just because I manifested the West Tigers to win the 2025 premiership. That's the only reason. That's the only possible solution to the Melbourne Storm problem this year.
Or, the team that's just won 4 straight premierships just wins another.
They're done. We took their spiritual leader from them. They're done.
That's true. 2 sides left, both with similar histories. You know which one the last one is, but the second last is the Gold Coast Titans. I want to pose a question. Is this potentially the most entertaining side of the last 5 years?
No.
Are you kidding? Hear me out. Hear me out. This is a big call, I know, but just hear me out. Okay? Keanu Kinney at fullback, who I think is going to be one of the great...
I love him. Yeah, he's a great
player. Khan Pereira, whose strike rate currently has him on par with Ken Irvine. Jojo Fafita's lightning quick. Phil Sami I've always loved. They've got AJ Brimson and Jaden Campbell in the halves. Now, there's no direction in that whatsoever, but they're fast and they can break a game wide open. And then if you wonder, okay, well, do they have the pigs to actually get them downfield into good ball position? They do. Regan Campbell-Gillard, Sam Verrills, Tino Fa'asua Mala'awi, Moaki Fodawaker, Bo Fermor, David Fafita. They've got a tradesman in Chris Randall at 13. They've got Jamin Jolliffe, who's a great effort player. Mate, this is look, I don't know where they end up. And that's the unpredictability. But holy shit, I think they're going to be really fun to watch. Like, I dead set think that they'll rack up a few 60-point scorelines this year.
You convinced me. But you've also convinced me of something else.
Go
Oh,
on.
the Tybro Grand Final, bro. The Tybro Grand Final. It feels right. Like the 2005 GF, it was two sides that historically struggle all coming together at the same time and both going on runs and like both being underdog stories, and we got over the top of them. And it was the Cowboys, the other Queensland team that had never made the finals, right? The other struggling Queensland. Tybros, the Titans. That is a really good side. But like, in fairness, I'm talking a bit of shit. But like when you spell it out, like, it's a competitive team. And Tino, I forgot Tino, man. Like, I think people underestimate the impact that guy has on the field and as a leader at that club. Like, they didn't have him pretty much the whole season.
That's right.
So he's massive in. They've got some really good halves at that club that haven't quite cracked first grade yet. So I'm not sure if I'm Hasler. I'm not sure if I'm very patient with like a halves combination like Campbell and Foran. Like, I'd rather give time to some of those other guys that like are more traditional like game manager halves, because there's some really good ones there. Young, but like also a couple that aren't so young.
Yeah. I think that the Gold Coast biggest issue has been picking and sticking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's kind of time to like stop playing this like, well, let's do the experimental, like throw all of our best utilities into spine rolls and just hope it works. They've been doing that since Tyrone Peachy was there. Like, I think it's time for them to actually like pick the developing players that they've brought through, expecting to actually play first grade, and actually let them play there. Because especially this year is a good year for them to do that with such a strong roster. You know, you can actually bring. That's what the Roosters did. You know, Sam Walker comes in and they can actually afford to carry him as a young guy because he's just surrounded by talent. I think they should definitely try to transition away from a Brimson Campbell type halves combination pretty early in the season. I hope they do anyway, because I really can't. The names of those two lads are slipping my mind, but I
Zane
really rate
Harrison's
them.
one of them. Now, he's a great player, but I reckon he's still 3 or 4 years off.
The other bloke too,
Weaver.
the old, looks like, yes, I like him. I really do. I think he's a really like smart half. Like the way I watch halves off the ball a lot when I watch footy games, and he seems like a cerebral type to me. He seems, and I think that like in the past when he's played first grade for the Titans, the games kind of never really it never really looked like the Titans were trying to play around him. It felt like he was trying to game manage, and the Titans were playing the Titans brand of football, which is, you know, up, eyes up, everyone's a freaking Benji Marshall.
Yeah.
And you've got this game manager type guy there that's trying to like, and he's young, so hasn't found his voice yet, right? But that's exactly what they need. So if somebody like, if they can get Weaver in there and actually have him find his voice and actually have him be like, come on, get around me, it would be a really good it would be a really good fit. It would be a solution for that team, and it is their biggest issue, I think, is game management.
Yeah, agreed. Anyway, look, I think they're middle 8.
Premiership runners up.
All right, last side. Now, we talk about them every week. West Tigers. My question is, can Jerome and the new recruits truly turn things around?
I'm gonna be brutally honest with you here. I'm gonna stop memeing, okay? If I'm not a Tigers fan and I've just gone through all of this with you and done this breakdown and stuff like this, I can't see how they don't improve massively. I'm saying this from an unbiased perspective. Like, how could they not improve massively? They've got all of the same good players coming back, with the exception of Papali'i. Like, and they lost to Ikamanu, but like, he didn't perform, and they've replaced him with a guy that did perform and looked great in the trials, as well as another guy in Royce Hunt that was pretty damn good on his day at the Sharks, and if you ask Sharks fans, was underrated by the coach there. So they've basically turned an underperforming Uto Ikamanu into a more experienced, actual performing version of Uto Ekamano with a backup plan to boot. And then they've brought in Jerome Luai, Sunia Taruva, and Jarrell Skelton to basically fix all of the other issues that were really a problem with that top 17. They've got the players to rock it out from their own end now, and they've got a guy who proved last year that he's a good 7 and can actually manage a team on the field. And as we spoke about a little bit earlier, Jerome Luai and Sunia Taruva are vocal on the field, and that's the other big issue that the Tigers had. The only guy that was vocal on the field was John Bateman, and they probably couldn't understand him. Let's be honest. So I can't see how they don't improve. Like, if I'm an unbiased spectator, frankly, I think that I'm probably predicting them to finish in I'm probably tempted to meme and say they'll probably come ninth, wink wink, to be honest. But I do personally, you know me, like I have a different like mind for footy. I think the Tigers are actually genuinely going to be they're going to be the side that like surprises most people this year. I think that they're going to win heaps of games. I genuinely do. Will they win the premiership? Yes, of course they will. But you know, at the end of the day, I do expect them to finish in the top 8 this year. I don't actually have any qualms making that prediction whatsoever.
Fair enough. Look, I believe that it will turn around, but I do think that it might take a little bit of time. I'm not saying a season. I'm not even saying half a season. I just think 4 to 6 weeks just to work out who we are and what we do, and for it all to click. We've had a good preseason. It's just sometimes putting it together on Saturday or Sunday can sometimes take a little bit longer. But as you say, the issues around controlling games, kicking games, yardage, these sorts of things have been fixed. But if we're going to look at weaknesses, it's our defence. I don't think we've signed enough defenders, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see how we do. That said, we're going to win more than 6 games this year. I'm absolutely certain of that. It's just it simply comes down to the impact of, honestly, one man, Jerome Luai, and what he can bring and what he can instill in this within the walls of the club. That's pretty much it. Look, if I'm going to put a true indication on it, I don't have us making the 8. I think we'll have some really, really good weeks. I think it'll be like the Tigers of old. There'll be some weeks where we lose by a point or 2 points and we go, how the fuck did we lose that? There'll be games where we beat, premiership contenders and we go, oh my God, like, is this really happening? I can see that happening. I think that we'll join that cluster of teams between sort of 6th and 12th. Where we finish there simply comes down to a couple of different things: injuries, coaching, and the effect of Jerome Luai on the group.
I just think that, like, it's fair. I get where you're coming from. It's a totally reasonable take. And I appreciate you always being reasonable because it makes that dynamic more fun.
Thank you.
But the end of the day, I was there in 05. I've seen this tape before. Like, I know it sounds weird, but you can get a sense for this club. Like, you can get a set, like, when the Tigers are the weirdest club in the NRL, because and this is why I can always seem to predict when they're going to do weird shit. Remember, I came down to Leichhardt. I've only ever been to one Leichhardt game in my life, and it was the game we won 64-6 or whatever it was against the Cowboys. You can just predict when the Tigers are going to be good, because it's this club that's identity is like hyper self-awareness, hyper self-doubt, like, and they just, like, as a club, just sort of fall into like this pit of confirmation bias despair, and it's gone, and it's completely gone. Like, there's nothing there anymore. Like, there's no negativity. Like, the media's trying, they're still dropping their little things here and there, but Richo's just like, like, he's just no-selling every single thing they're trying to do to unravel them. And meanwhile, you've got Benji Marshall just there, just like, now he's got Jerome Luai, he's solved the wing problem. The forwards look great. There is method to my thinking, like, and it's not just based on the practical things you can see on the field, right? You can see that they're a better roster and stuff like that, but it's that It's just that innate weird West Tigers essence that's been plaguing them for so long. It's actually completely gone. Like, there's no smell of it. It's gone. If they lose a few games in a row, maybe somebody takes a giant shit in Concord and the smell comes back, right? So that's to me, like, the key is keeping up the momentum, like foot on the throat type shit. Because even in 05, we got that premiership off of momentum. We came on like a fucking surging wave, right? There was no like consistency to it. It wasn't like we were the best club. It was like we just went and like flooded over the top of them like a cyclone hitting Brisbane. So I feel like that's why, and that ties into like my prediction for the game in Newcastle, because Benji was there. These guys know that they know the dynamic of the Tigers, and frankly, I feel like Benji Marshall is a little bit like, how do I say this without sounding like a lunatic? I feel like Benji Marshall kind of reads things in a little bit more of like a strategic way, a little bit like I do, because like he seems to always do the same things that I seem to suggest. So I have this feeling like that he just sees the game and the tactics of roster management and stuff quite similar to me. And if that's the case, he's going to have the same thought, which is we have to just come out and just blow them away. And then that sets the scene. That's what it's all about. It's setting the scene, getting those boys to come off the field after the first game and just be like, see, I told you we were different. And then it just changes everything in their heads. And if you play a conservative brand of football in round one and you just try to win through like 1%ers against a side like Newcastle, it can really bite you in the ass, because Newcastle could do the same thing to us. So that's like, I hope that sort of helped explain like that there is a little bit of thinking behind all of this fucking bluster. But at the end of the day, I do genuinely think that the West Tigers are in a completely different class this year. They're going to be a completely different prospect.
Absolutely.
And do not talk about injury. Just don't even bring it up. We just do not even need to even like mention that shit, because like that's the one thing that that's the one issue we have is depth. So let's just touch wood that doesn't happen. And I still do think Apit Coruscant is immoral for the Dally M.
Listen, good times are ahead, and I know that I'm trying to be the voice of reason here, but it is really hard not to be optimistic. There is so much about this club that has changed both on and off the field, and you deserve to be excited. You deserve to be optimistic, and you deserve to be full of hope.
And so do our listeners. And like I think it's that's what we bring as a podcast. We bring a little bit of a different perspective. Like West Tigers in the media. Looking in the media for West Tigers content is like looking at fucking death. It's like staring into the abyss and it's staring back at you week in, week out. So I hope that this is a real point of difference when Tigers fans listen to it, because it gives them something to actually feel confident about. They hear about the juniors coming through and they can see the excitement, and they can see it when we mention these juniors and them coming through, and it actually gets them on board, and it helps change their perspective on things. And frankly, I think that helps the club. I genuinely do. I think that when everybody starts to, get positive around the Tigers and change the rhetoric around the Tigers, they feel it. Because I know players listen to this podcast. We figured this out. They do. I know they do. And I know that they read social media chatter too. And it matters. It really matters. At the end of the day, that's the unfortunate truth of the world that we live in. These guys live in the same world as we do. They read the papers. They read the social media comments. They listen to the podcast, or at least their freaking partners do, and their partners tell them about it. So it's important to change the narrative for their benefit too. Because if you went to work tomorrow after a whole fucking day of a bunch of people saying that you were shitty at your job and you had no chance, you know what? You would suck. This is the truth. Everybody knows that. That's the way it is. So it's time to change the narrative, and that's what I'm here to do. That's why I'm hopeful that this podcast can actually be, a voice of this while we watch this rise. And I fucking tell you right now, it's gonna happen. I truly believe it. It's gonna happen.
It is gonna happen. West Tigers Football, episode 20. There you have it. Win, lose or draw, Friday night. We will be here next week to talk about everything that went on. It will be a shorter podcast because we don't have a season preview.
Hey, round one podcast, probably 2 hours.
And a listener requested segment. But as always, like, subscribe, hit the bell. Shout out Pinch Payments for your support as always.